Well, as usual, we are in the middle of the night or the very early morning. It's about 4:11 a.m. And I wanted to just talk about a few things this morning. I guess this morning would be the most appropriate words to use here. This morning, I wanted to talk about a few things. Of course, as always, I want to share some stories that have happened to me. But I also wanted to, I think, first of all, talk about you being able to leave your body. And I know that there are many people that listen to this that are working on being able to leave their body and explore the astral plane. And sometimes, it's difficult for me because I know that there are people on the internet that will tell you that you can achieve astral projection in tonight or in 2 months or 3 months or in 5 months. Certainly that could be possible. And I'm not saying that it isn't, but at least in my humble opinion, it takes time to be able to do this and to do it effectively. Even for those of us that have been doing it for years and years and years, there are still things, many, 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 many things that we have to learn. And I don't believe this is an overnight thing. But I also believe that if you really truly want to achieve it, you can. And I've done a video on some techniques on how to leave your body. But I wanted to at least stress one really important thing. And if something else comes to me in the moment, then I'll share it with you. But one thing I've noticed is that people that are trying to leave their body, they'll say that they are getting to a certain point and then it's gone. Like they'll feel the vibrations and then those vibrations go away, or they'll feel themselves, starting to come out and then it'll stop. And most times the explanation for this is that as soon as they start to feel something, well, a few things may happen. They may panic, for one. That's one thing. Or they get really excited, like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving my body. Oh my gosh, it's really happening. It's really happening. And it stops. And the one thing I want to share with you, and this is something that, well, it's taken a long time to really learn this. Because one of the best things you can do, and one of the tips that I can give you that works the best is to get out of your own way, to take your mind out of the equation. Because as I've said before, the mind has its function here and it does all kinds of things that we need, whether it be working, dealing with family, dealing with relationships, whatever. The mind definitely has its place, but the mind does not have a place necessarily in the astral plane. And the only reason that it can get in the way, and you know what? I shouldn't say that it doesn't have a place. That's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong to say that. The mind, while we are in our conscious environment, it's basically standing in front of everything else, right? So there's the mind, and then there's the subconscious, and there are all these other things, but the mind is basically controlling it. It's in the number one spot when we're walking around and we're awake and we're functioning. But when we go into the astral plane, or we're traveling to different realities, or even for me going into the beyond body situation, the thing you have to understand is that the mind needs to be in the background. It needs to be in the backdrop, right? And you need to allow the spirit being that you are to take over. Really, that's truly the key here. The key is to move your mind into the background. Really, honestly, when we dream, our subconscious is in the forefront and our minds are in the background anyway. So you can kind of think of it like that. And if you could imagine taking your mind literally as if it's some sort of object or something and placing it behind you, right? So that, yeah, you're still able to perceive things with your mind there, but it's not at the forefront anymore. At the forefront is your spiritual being, in the truest sense of what we are, pure energy. Put that in front. Allow that to take control. And that will hopefully allow you to leave your body in an easier way to make it smoother for you. So that's one piece of advice that I can give you. Also, I wanted to share a few experiences with you just because I always think, well, I hope to inspire you. Let's just put it that way. Because of the adventures that I've had, that will perhaps make you want to continue with this, even if you're not seeing success initially. I want you to know that you can get to this point. I remember back when I was in my 30s, which was a while ago, and I was doing astral projection, and it was kind of on and off. It wasn't like it is now. It didn't have the position in my life that it does now. But I remember when I really first started trusting my guides, and I came out of my body at one point, and I remember telling my guides, hey, look guys, it's up to you. You take me anywhere you want to take me. And within the blink of an eye, suddenly I was orbiting the planet. Wow, it was amazing. I was in space. Now, I've gone to space since then, and it has been astonishing. In fact, I've had some really, really astonishing experiences in space. Some things that I'm going to talk about in the future. But this was probably the first time that I had ever actually been out in space. And it is amazing. And obviously there's no sound. You know, it isn't like a movie. It isn't like, you know, Star Wars or anything like that. It's just complete and utter silence. But within that silence, there's a sound, and it is beautiful. Anyway, I remember when I first got out, I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting there and I'm floating, and what I think is the Earth is right there, and I'm looking out, and there are all these spherical objects. They're all floating, right? They're about the size of a house, these objects. And there were countless numbers of them, countless. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. This must be what satellites look like. But no way, they weren't satellites. And as I took a closer look, I could see that each of these spherical objects, again, about the size of a house, had a window. And I saw inside one of the windows. And in that window, there was a living room, there was a kitchen. This was a dwelling. I do believe at this point, as I recall, I do believe that I was in some other reality. Actually, looking back on it, it was obviously some other reality. And in this reality, the houses were not on the earth. The houses orbited the planet. They were in orbit like satellites, and people lived there. When I saw that window and I saw the living room and I saw all these other things, I just went, oh my God. And sometimes there are no words to describe what you see. The only thing you can sit there and say is, oh my God, this is amazing. And that's it. Within a moment, suddenly I was back. Now let me tell you about another instance that I had that was pretty amazing. And this was within that same, I believe that was that same night, and I'd had two experiences. When I left my body again, I again allowed my guides to take over those around me. And I remember I was flying or gliding over this field at night, and it was beautiful. Now, the thing is, and I've said this before, when you see things in the astral plane, it's like HD on mega steroids. It's so clear, and you can see absolutely everything. In this field, don't ask me what the actual crops were. I don't remember. I know it was a field of some sort. Maybe there was corn. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember gliding over it. For some reason, it reminded me a little bit of the baseball film, Field of Dreams. Reminded me of that moment, that kind of a field. That's what first comes to my mind when I think about it. Anyway, I was gliding, and it's interesting, and I've kind of pointed this out before. When my guides hold me, I always feel very secure, and at this point, I could feel them holding me. They were holding me, and I've talked about this before. I'm sure that some folks might be a little nervous or afraid thinking about some being that you can't see holding you. But let me tell you that it is the most secure feeling when I'm out there. I know that they've got my back and they're protecting me if something were to come about. So we were gliding, and at some point we slowed down and we saw this huge cat. Oh my God, this cat was a house cat. Looked like it was the size of a man. And it was focused on the ground. And I saw its head down, but I also saw that its eyes were projecting beams of light onto the ground. And it seemed to be searching for something. And I thought that was unusual. So we slowed down, and then we stopped. And of course, I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow. And I said, hello to the cat, or whatever this being happened to be. This cat looked up, and as the cat looked up, my guide started pulling me backwards rather quickly. And I'm talking about they were accelerating pretty fast to get us out of there. And I just thought it was funny. Within moments, I was back in my body. But to this day, I think, was this being somehow dangerous? I don't know. I know that my guides wanted to just show me this cat or this being or whatever it was for some purpose. I'm not sure why, but yeah, we got out of there in a hurry, and it was quite interesting. There are so many wonders that you can see out there, and it is infinite. So what I urge you to do is to continue on this journey. If you've begun, continue moving forward and just relax and allow it to happen. If you stay in this long enough, I do believe that it will. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on another journey with me. And until next time, take care.